Hello, welcome to this Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. And in this hopefully insightful and very thorough deep dive, we're going to be looking at the battle tactics that you can choose for Age of Sigmar 4 in the new GHB, and maybe which ones to choose. In the future, we're maybe going to discuss which battle tactics specifically work for which armies, and we're also going to be talking about some meme army builds and a bunch of other stuff in upcoming videos. And if you're excited about any of that, let me know. Leave some comments, etc., etc. Okay, so if you haven't been keeping track, the new battle tactics for Age of Sigmar 4 are located on cards, and you choose 2 of them, and you write them down on your army list when you create your army list. Now, this is going to make games kind of interesting when you are having your kind of casual pickup game. I played a game last night against my good friend Oscar, and then when I turned up, he was like, we need to choose battle tactics. I'm like, yeah, I do actually, because I hadn't really processed it. Why I bring that up is because you could potentially look at your opponent's army and say, actually, I'm going to choose this and this. But I've been pretty much picking the same ones because actually, when we go through this process, I think there's really only a couple of standout ones, which is what we're going to talk about. But you are going to write them down on your army list, and if you are playing an event, you've got to stick with it. So you've got to really work out across the missions that are announced ahead of time, which I think is super important if you're playing an event, or if you're even planning to play with your friend. Say, hey, do you want to play on Thursday, or do you want to play on Tuesday, whatever. Let's play ley lines. Let's do that. Let's go play ley lines, so you know that you can choose your battle tactic that works for that. Now, actually, I guess really is if you're just playing a casual pickup game, you can really orientate your tactics much more, and you could be like, actually, this battle tactic will work much better for that mission. So that's actually maybe a little bit more kind of beneficial to you, your playstyle, and also casual games and the casual scene. Maybe it's more beneficial. Mainly, I'm going to be looking at this for events and event organization, and also playing an event. So what is the best set of missions if you're playing across everything? Also, we should quickly talk about how you generally win the game. Really simple. 2 ways you really generally win the game is you hold objectives and you kill stuff. Those are pretty dominant things that you do to win a game before we talk about what the battle tactics do and how you achieve them. Holding primary points is worth 50 points over the course of a game, potentially. Therefore, you are incredibly focused on doing that. So go watch the missions video that I did and the tier list on that and which missions to play. And maybe we'll be talking about some mission strategies in the future. All right, let's go and have a look at our first battle tactic card. As you can see, we've got ourselves a tier list. I'll link the tier list link down below. I'll link the link down below so you can click it, and then you can make your own tier list if you want, if you disagree with me. Okay, so the first battle tactic is master the paths. Now, again, just to be clear, you put 2 on your army list, and the way you score battle tactics is at the end of your turn. If you've achieved the criteria that you need for a battle tactic, you'll score the points. You can't score part 2 and 3, or you can't score part 2 until you've done part 1, and you can't score part 3 until you've done 1 and 2. That's how it works. You can score, of your 2 battle tactics cards, you can score both of them, or each stage of a battle tactic card at the end of your turn. So it's potential to score 10, which I did last night. I completed path 2 and 3 of both of my battle tactics in turn 4 and then in turn 5. So I was able to get 10 for battle tactics in turn 4 and turn 5. So very very easy if you can make it happen. I again generally think that people are only going to actually score closer to 20 points from their battle tactics cards, and I generally think this is going to be a win more edition, but I'll talk about that at the end, and hopefully that'll give you some more insight in maybe how to build a list or maybe how to play. So the first part of Master the Paths is a fray, and this is cut the head off. Cut off the head. You complete this battle tactic at the end of turn if an enemy hero has been destroyed this battle. Now, with the way army list writing is done, you always need to have a hero, obviously, and then you have units inside that hero's regiment. So this is always going to be something that's an option for you. In some cases, especially depending on which armies you're playing against or which become really prevalent in the meta, Sons of Behemoth are a good example. If they're very popular because they're really good at holding the primary, this becomes very easy to achieve. I say easy, it's pretty tough to kill a Gargant because there's 4 heroes on the board that you potentially could go fight. In other cases, most heroes are hiding at the back of the board. They're buff pieces, which most of the other army is protecting. So this isn't necessarily one that you can always achieve early. So this is really going to depend on how your opponent's army is built. That normally isn't a solid strategy. You normally want to build things that work in the way that you want to play. If my opponent turns up and they just have one incredibly tough hero to kill, like Archaon. Now, Archaon will get in a fight because that's so many points to not do much else, but can be tough to kill. So this is an interesting one in that it's achievable or very accessible to do, but not necessarily always something you can do, and especially not something you can do early. Next up, you got Seize the Paths. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if there are more friendly units in neutral territory than enemy units. If there is no neutral territory in the battle plan you are playing, you complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if there are no enemy units within friendly territory. So this is a double stipulation in the way that you got to do it. So the double stipulation is a real problem for me personally. Number one, in order to be able to achieve this battle tactic, I need to know that the sections of the board are going to contain some no man's land or some neutral territory, and many battle plans don't, especially depending on which battle plans become chosen more versus the others. Generally, like you saw with my battle plan video, there are at least 2 battle plans that I thought shouldn't be picked at all. So that immediately kind of takes out certain battle plans from being more popular. And then there are a bunch that I think people will pick a lot. I think there's about 7 that was like the main ones that people would pick from. Now, across those 7, if there aren't enough no man's lands that are it's easy to achieve this, then you're not going to be able to do this very easily. So now I have to wait to see if the battle plan allows me to do it, very much like with the hero situation. So now I've got 2 time. I need to get my luck right. I need to play on a mission that I can do this, and I can do this easily. And then I also need to play on a mission where against an opponent who's got a hero that I can definitely kill. However, that doesn't matter, because the second part of this destroys this for me. If there's no neutral territory in the battle plan, you're playing complete battle tactic at the end of your turn. If there are no enemy units within friendly territory, that's a no from me. That immediately makes me nope out. And because I've noped out at 2, it means 3 doesn't really matter. This one for me is just a no-go. But we'll read the third part to see. Domination, Envelop, and Strangle. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if at least 3 different friendly units are each wholly within 9 inches of a friendly different corner of the battlefield, and only one of those corners is wholly within friendly territory. No more than one of those units have been set up this turn. No. This does not key into the 2 main things, right, that I want to do in my missions. I don't want to be in the corners because there are no objectives. I also might not have 3 units because it's later in the game, which I don't want at all, right? I don't like this. And also I have to be in very specific parts of the board. Now, of course, all of this is kind of easy if you've just tabled your opponent. This is why one of the things we're going to talk about is the win more condition of the new battle tactics. So if on the first or second turn I kill the enemy hero, and then turns 2 and 3, I've just destroyed their army, then I can achieve this, and I can achieve this. This is very achievable. Like, all of this becomes really easy if the enemy is dead. So, like, this becomes a win more in that scenario. But I personally don't, it doesn't for me, and also I'm going to design lists to also do that. Like the army I played last night is designed to do that. I intentionally played an army on Tuesday that didn't do that. And guess what? It was a tough game. It wasn't easy to do. So Master the Paths. Master the Paths is here. Now, it's not maybe the worst, but I'm going to put this in here. And maybe later it's going to move down into C. But it is definitely not up here. Okay, as you can see, I've quickly amended my tier list. I forgot to do that. So we got good, medium, and bad. This is currently a medium, although likely to move into bad. Likely. We've also got a what the hell section. I'm really excited to put something in the what the hell section. Anyway, that is Master the Paths for now, medium. Our next battle tactic is called Restless Energy. So the first stage of this is called Water with the Blood. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if you control an objective that was controlled by your opponent at the start of your turn. Okay. Now, normally, the way it will work is you'll have an objective in your territory, and then there'll be some in no man's land. So that means immediately there's an objective your opponent controls, which you obviously can take and score this. Also, they're going to try and take the ones in no man's land, as are you. Therefore, this feels like a battle tactic that's very achievable, especially early, because you might trade small units on objectives versus big hammer units. Now, this will be much harder against a certain army playstyle that's going to try and flood the board. No, well, kind of. It depends. If they try to alpha pin you and you aren't able to go and grab the other objectives, then you're not necessarily going to score all this, but they are going to have claimed a lot of objectives. Ultimately, you claim objectives in the game. You're going to do that. Therefore, taking their objectives is also going to be an inherent part of what you do, and therefore this one is good. So, yes, War with Blood is going to be good. Next one is called Invasive Species. Completes battle tactic at the end of your turn. You control every objective within enemy territory. If there are no objectives within enemy territory, you complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn. And if you control every objective that was controlled by your opponent at the start of your turn. So, this, again, is your opponent has a bunch of stuff in their territory. Not necessarily 3 objectives, oftentimes not as many as that, sometimes more like 1 or 2. This gives you an opportunity to just like punch through and get this. And this is more of a win more. This is where I think sometimes this battle tactic will fall down and will make this a little bit tough. But go grab their objectives, their territory means they also have to be defensive on their territory to deny your battle tactic if that's what they're planning on doing. So for me, this one also is very strong. And then we got Domination, all routes entwined. Although I will recognize, by the way, that my theory on this being good is predicated on the idea that you're just going to go and smash everyone's models off their objectives. But you kind of are going to do that anyway because you need to hold the primary. So, and the next one, Domination, all routes entwined. You complete this battle attack at the end of your turn if you control every objective on the battlefield. Now, this one is necessarily not something you're going to score all the time. I feel you're more likely to get always 5 points from this, sometimes 10, and if it is a big win more, you're just getting 15. But a big win more is great. And all objectives on the board might be something you ought to also try to do in like big DPT armies, like a ton of Chaos Warriors or like Blight Kings or something similar to that. So, to me, this really keys in with how you're going to play the game anyway, but more importantly, isn't going to have some of the downsides that some of the other ones have. So for me, this immediately goes up to good, but we could maybe look at that in the future, but that's that one. All right, if we go and look at Battle Tactic card 3, it's called Intercept and Recover. At the start of the battle, opponent, or as it's now been nicknamed, Treasures. At the start of the battle, your opponent must pick 3 of their units on the battlefield to be carrying Ghyranite treasures. Now, this is a really fun mechanic, and I've played this 3 times out of 3 so far. My opponent picks 3 of their units. You can make a massive mistake. I played a game last night where I intentionally designed units in my list, assuming my opponent would be taking Intercept and Recover, so that those units were fast, mobile, and able to potentially get out of the way to deny this from my opponent. Because, as an example, I had 2 units of Grand Hammer Annihilators. I wouldn't make those units that my opponents have to kill because my opponent already wants to kill them. I made it little silly things like Lori, a unit of Prosecutors, which I can just keep out of the way doing tactics and not be involved in the main battle. Therefore, I'm not giving up the points for this. They cannot pick a faction, terrain, feature, or manifestations. A unit can only carry 1 treasure. Your opponent has fewer than 3 units on the battlefield. You automatically complete a number of these battle tactics, etc., etc. If you went second in the previous battle round and choose to go first in this current battle round, your opponent can remove 1 Ghyranite treasure from the unit. So if you do a double, your opponent can remove 1 of these from the board. So it's really easy. They pick 3 of their units to like give a treasure. If you kill them, then you gain this. What's also really nice is you gain this even if you kill it in your opponent's turn. Let's say they charge in and you counter charge and you wipe out one of their treasure-based units, whatever it might be. However it happens, you still gain the points. So basically you're saying if 3 units in your army die, I'm going to get 15 points. Guess how you win games of Age of Sigmar? You kill stuff. So this one maybe gets its own class of like absolutely SSS. Like, have I said that too many times? No, I don't know. But this one is going straight to the top, right there. This is like me. I might even add 1 to the top of this. Our next battle tactic is called Wrathful Cycles. The first stage of this is called Defiant Surge. You complete this battle tactic in your turn if you control more objectives than your opponent. Not bad if you have got a low drop army and you make the choice to go first, which is a really solid tactic. I'm going first. I'm going to jump on a bunch of objectives, and especially good for armies that might want to flood objectives very early, like you would see with Alpha Pin armies or like DPT check armies like Magakin and Nurgle and a bunch of Ard Boys and maybe even horrors. Not really, maybe, I don't know. But like taking enough of the objectives that your opponent has to hit you. Also, though, the problem becomes if the battle plan doesn't have enough objectives for you to be able to do that early, and if you don't have the speed to do that. But you'll know in your army list writing roughly if you're going to be able to do that. So stage 1 of this is kind of okay, specifically if you're building an army this way, and it almost feels like the opposite of killing more stuff. Like that's how it feels. Like if Restless Energy's counterpoint, where Restless Energy is about not Restless Energy, sorry, doing the treasures one, is the opposite of this, where it's like, cool, go grab all the objectives, sit on those objectives, score primary points, so you're double tapping. I'm scoring primary points and I'm doing a battle tactic. I love that. Then we get to part 2 called Daring Resurgence. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn. If you are the underdog this battle round, there is at least one friendly unit on the battlefield, and at least half of the friendly units on the battlefield running up have used a fight ability this turn. Okay. Crumple it up in a ball is what you can do. When you get your new GHBs, take this one, crumple it in a ball, yeah, set it on fire, and then maybe, you know, like just warm your hands against it. But to look at this in more detail, then there's so much that's happening here. And also, most importantly, it's incongruent and opposite for what's happening in Defiant Surge. If they had built a series of battle tactics where the job of the battle tactics was to make it so that, I call them flood armies, but an army that's going to go jump on a bunch of objectives, right? Sit on them, which is what you would do early. I'm going to make a low drop army that's going to jump on a bunch of objectives early, and I'm going to hold the line. I've got anti-charge 1. I'm sitting on these objectives until the end of time, or hopefully until turn 4, and I'm going to keep scoring the primary, and I've got abilities that increase my OC control, and that's my entire job. My entire job is to take the land and control it. Then part 1 works really well for that, and having a low drop army in part 1 works really well. Part 2, where then, because I've scored heavily early, I won't be the underdog, is not even the biggest issue of this part of the battle tactic, but it is a big issue. The second part is there needs to be a friendly, at least half of the friendly units on the battlefield rounding up need to have used a fight ability. And you can't necessarily guarantee that. You can't necessarily, you're going to fight with everything in your army. Certain armies don't want everything to fight because maybe you've got a couple of missile-based units. Also, maybe that combat at that time maybe isn't the perfect time to do that. Maybe you score this crazy late when there's nothing less. This one sucks. This sucks loads for a bunch of different reasons. Yeah, and it feels like a lose more tactic. Yeah, like I'm losing. Oh, cool. Let me fight you and lose more. And then you get a master of strategy. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn. If there is a different friendly unit wholly within each large quarter of the battlefield, you control more objectives than your opponent, and there are no enemy units contesting any objectives that you control. This again feels like a completely different tempo shift from what's happening in part 2, where in this, I'm now in a dominant position again. Somehow I was able to make a comeback. I was able to fight with like at least half of my stuff, and now I've got all of the objectives on the board. And all of the objectives on the board, and that's it. And this just doesn't make any sense. Like part 1 and part 2 kind of make, part 3 makes sense, but part 2 I don't like at all. And also, like, you can't necessarily guarantee that you're going to be the underdog and a bunch of different stuff. So it feels like I understand what it was meant to be and would have worked really well for certain armies, and then part 2 just flubs it. Maybe, though, let me know if you're like, no, actually, Rob, the way my army works is the tempo is I move forward early, I grab everything, then I kind of retreat and I move somewhere else. Then I become the underdog, apparently, somehow. and then I score again. A mid-break tempo in a 5-turn game is a wild take. Yeah, I don't really understand this. So this one is called Wrathful Cycles, and I'm going to put this as bad. Unfortunately, that's where I'm going to put this for now. But it could even go, what the hell? It could even go there. Next up, we got Scouting Force. This was the first one showed off by GW, and maybe a bit of a bait because it really felt like they were all going to be like this. But anyway, Scouting Force. At the start of the battle, every friendly non-hero infantry and non-hero cavalry unit wholly within friendly territory becomes a scouting unit. You cannot complete this battle tactic with scout units that are in combat, which is tough. And then replacement units that replace scout units are also scout units. Now, this is absolutely great for certain armies. certain armies are really good at this, because Gits, as an example, are going to have a lot of these units potentially that they're going to be able to throw around the board. Skaven as well. A lot of opportunity to do things like this. They've also got a lot of teleporting, but you do need movement and mobility to do this. So let's look at what you got to do. The first part, raiding party. Complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if there are 3 or more friendly scout units wholly outside friendly territory. That's a pretty easy one, because you want to go, and you can tie this really nicely with go grab a bunch of objectives. I want to go outside my territory. I need to get objectives anyway, because that's where they are. They're outside of my territory. Off I go. Good. This sinks in really well with that. That's fine. The next part, and also generally you move forward. The next one is Bold Explorers. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if 3 or more objectives or terrain features that you control in any combination are being contested by any friendly units. Those objectives and terrain features must be within enemy territory. This is where, unfortunately, this falls down a little bit, because you need the right amount of terrain to exist on the battle plan, and you need the ability to go grab them. And 3 is quite a lot. And also, because it's in the enemy territory, just picture this. You have the enemy territory and all of the terrain, and all of the units that your opponent has have their OC value next to it. Fine. The way that I remove their OC value from those pieces of terrain is by killing them, but I can't do that with my scouting units because I'm not allowed to be in combat. So what I need to do is kill all of these units that are holding those anyway, which, fine. I'll do that. At which point, how easy or non-easy this is to achieve doesn't really matter, because you just killed all of their stuff anyway. So any of the objectives, any of the battle tactics can be done at that point. So that's not necessarily true for all armies, all missions, and all layouts. But for me, this makes it really slows us down. And then finally, we've got Courageous Adventurers. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if a friendly scout unit was not set up this turn, is contesting a terrain feature that you control that's wholly within enemy territory and that is more than 6 inches from friendly territory. So again, this is really dependent on which battle plan you're playing, the opportunity to do it, and all of your scout units are alive and close enough to go and grab objectives. So for me, this one just isn't super strong. I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm going to put this just as medium, because mainly it depends on your army. There are loads and loads of armies that are just not going to be able to achieve this, mainly because they've got a lot of bodies on the board and they need those bodies to be constantly fighting. Oh, sorry, they've got like limited units. Like they need those units to constantly be fighting or doing things or holding objectives, and they can't just be messing around going and grabbing a bit of terrain. It's not terrible though, and they're all achievable, and it's just about OC value, but it's mainly just about how this doesn't work for lots of different armies. It definitely works for some, Skaven, cities maybe, Flesh Eater Courts, maybe Stormcast, maybe they're a little bit on the elite side, but there we go. Next up, we've got Attuned to Ghyran. Okay, so this is our last battle tactic. I'm a little bit disappointed that there weren't 12 battle tactics. That way, I think there would have been a lot more differentiation and a lot more opportunity to really customize which 2 you took together. So the first one is called Sacred Centrality. You complete this battle tactic at the end of the turn if there are at least 2 friendly units within 3 inches of the center of the battlefield that are not in combat. That's fine. If there's an objective there, that's even better. That's great. Like, I'm moving there anyway. I'm grabbing it, and that's very achievable. That's okay. If there is no objective in the middle, now I'm just putting 2 units in the middle for no maybe real reason, when I really want them to go and grab objectives, especially because you score so many more points in this game for getting objectives. For instance, even if I grab 1 objective with a unit and it gets me 2 points over the course of 5 turns, that's going to get me 10 points, which is 2/3 of a battle tactic. So getting the primary, holding the primary, is going to be a key function of how Age of Sigmar 4 and this GHB works. That's going to be the quintessential element of how to play. Next up, Phase Strikes. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if all of the following are true. 2 friendly units use retreat ability this turn. Those units are the lure units. And at least 2 other friendly units used a charge ability this turn. And at least 1 of those units ended the charge move in combat with an enemy unit from which any of the lure units retreated. So I currently need 4 units to be involved in this one, right? I need the exact right scenario of things, which I might not have been able to organize, to have happened, right? So I need a lot of things to have happened to be able to achieve this. It's also worded in a kind of odd way, which has already made me need to produce like an answer to a question about like a unit that can do a charge, because there are many units like Nighthaunt as an example that can do charges while they're in combat. Like, have I retreated and then charged? And the answer I gave was no, like TLDR. But either way, ignoring the kind of inconsistencies with how it's worded and how it inconsistently works with some abilities that are inside the game, the key function of this is that I need to do stage 2 of this. I need to be in the right situation perfectly to be able to make this happen. Not saying I love that, to be honest. So I'm out. Next one, Purification Rites. Completes battle tactic at the end of your turn. If there are no enemy units within friendly territory and no enemy units within neutral territory. So this is just a pure win more condition. Have you smashed your opponent? Yes, then you score this. But guess what? You've already smashed all your opponents anyway on any of the other battle tactics, so you also score those as well. So the third part of this isn't in any way better than any of the others. And the second part of this is contrived. So actually, I don't like this one at all, and I think this one is Garbo. So I'm going to put Attuned to Ghyran there, because I don't think Scouting Forces is bad. I'm going to remind myself of Master of the Paths to see which one that was and see if I'm actually going to drop it down another one. Kill an enemy hero, then you complete this battle attack at the end of your turn. If there are more friendly units in neutral territory than enemy units, there are no neutral territory in the battle plan. If there are no enemy units with friendly territory, and then complete battle attack at the end of your turn, I'm dropping that down. I'm dropping Master of the Paths down. You can get out of there as well. You suck. So that's how that has worked out for me and the way that I read it. That's the way I read it. And it feels very much like there are two. Now, what's interesting is when you get two very obvious options in a war game is you get something called a counter meta. If everyone is taking Restless Energy and Intercept and Recover, people then might be like, well, I'm going to try and do one of the other ones because I'm going to be able to trick my way out of what my opponent is doing. That's a great question. I think actually that isn't where the counter meta is going to evolve in Age of Sigmar 4. Now, this is an early prediction and a hot take, so it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm right in any way, but it's interesting to kind of break the game down before you get to the tabletop, because it ultimately is a strategy game where you're going to have fun and try to win games and have some fun with it. So what it looks like to me, having played these missions, that it really is about dominantly holding the primary objectives, like go and stand on the circles to the best degree that you can. And the best way to stand on circles is two different ways. Number one, you create an army that's so tough and resilient, you know, like Warriors of Chaos, for example, that your opponent is going to really struggle to shift them. The other side of that is to take as many smashy units as you can and just table all your opponent's models off the board. Now, because you no longer need to necessarily engage turn one, because the battle tactics don't require you to have to do something in the first turn, but the objectives do. The objectives mean that you have, because you need to score them early, means you might get small little trading units, you know, like Tree Revenants as an example, or Canary, that just go grab an objective, maybe they fly away, maybe they come back later as your two or three main blocks smash into each other. So I reckon that's where we're going to roughly see the game orientate around, this kind of like big smash in the center, or on the objective specifically. However, that isn't necessarily the full send summer that, like, it might not be that, is what I'm trying to say. It might just be, I think that's what it'll be there. I think everyone's just going to full send, and then the battle tactics become secondary, because if you have chosen the battle tactics like Restless Energy and Intercept and Recover, those will win more battle tactics. If I've smashed you off all the objectives, then I've scored Intercept and Recover and I've done Restless Energy. So why wouldn't I take those? Like, Scouting Force is, I have to go and do some additional things instead of smashing you off the objectives. So you're adding more work for yourself. And everything else just has very contrived middle sections, which are tough to do. I really wish GW would put 6 more battle tactics in. I think that would be good. Give us 12 in total, and I would have been much happier about it. However, that's my hot take. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.